Hello, I'm Joyce, founder of Beyond This Point Ministries, and I'm glad you joined me for this powerful and liberating message today. If you've never visited my website, I would encourage you to do so. I'm an author and speaker, and I have a passion for the preservation of our precious family units. Much of the trouble we find in our nation today began when Satan began attacking our families. Unfortunately, he's conquered a lot of territory in his efforts to have this great nation fall. That's why it's an urgent message that I spill forth about how to safeguard the holy institution of marriage, the covenant that God ordained first. His guidelines are the best, and when followed, they offer strength to the moral fiber that knit this great country together initially. It's been weakened, but through the power of God and us reclaiming our families one at a time, we can return to the strength we knew years ago. I hope you'll make this issue a matter of prayer along with me. In fact, I'd love to visit your church and conduct a seminar. You can contact my publicist today and book me for an event. Get a pen and jot down my website info at the end of this video. Then give it to the appropriate person at your church in charge of scheduling such events. You'll be happy you did. I'm in the process of completing my book entitled Getting Past the Past, and I'm so excited about the prospects of this message. Everywhere I present this powerful presentation, whether it's the full run at a weekend retreat or a short run at a ladies' tea, it is a comforting and healing agent. It's empowering to women regardless of age, race, or distinction. I continue to receive updates from those who have been a part of this presentation in the past, and the transformation of their lives has been incredibly uplifting and rewarding. So let me begin with what I feel is going to be a defining hallmark in my career as an author and speaker. This will be a series of several videos giving you a preview of my life and the wonderful journey God entrusted to me. I believe He has orchestrated every note that has come together to make harmony out of what could have been an ugly song in my time here on earth. Everything I am, everything I will be, and everyone I touch is because of His power. I am blessed indeed to have served the God Jehovah, the great and mighty El Shaddai. Life has seasoned me. My flavor is sometimes sweet, sometimes savory, and at times its taste can be somewhat bitter. I try not to go there, but I'm human and it can sneak up on me when I'm not careful of what shaker I'm pouring out over my soup mixture in life. I'm zany and don't care that I am. I'm as real as they come. I'm determined, I'm persistent, and I'm stubborn. These are qualities in me that I don't especially like, many that were inherited, passed down genetically, and some that come in, with the seasons of life, and some born as a product of my environment. I'm a devoted wife, a mother and grandmother, and even to my granddogs. I put life on hold often. I have learned to put this day out of my head, regroup and greet tomorrow with all its ins, outs, and wackiness that may accompany it, all the while dream and anticipate the future and what it may hold for my life, and then how that fits into my service for my God. I'm a high energy and high strung individual, and during the course of this series, you're going to find out where I get both qualities. Lots of ingredients, personalities, and events have gone into this life of mine. And what I have become is because of who I was. You're about to meet what made me who I am today, my past. Memory is a funny thing. Some people retain everything, and there are those who have a short retention span. My husband can recall incidences from his childhood on through the last 5 minutes, pull from those and make fabulous sermon messages. I, on the other hand, don't remember much about my childhood. In fact, I far remember more than I care to, actually. You read and hear of people who block out memory for different reasons, and I am well aware that I have blocked memories, some self-induced blockage, and others because I just don't have a great memory. Now, what I've done is I have adopted a memory bank that has an open door for good memories. Those surface anytime they choose, and I'm glad for it. And then I have a vault for the bad memories. They don't get out very often. Who wants to release those bad boys anyway, right? But there are some memories that I have that played a huge role in the shaping of my life, and I'll share a few with you in this series. Other significant ones will be shared in the book. The first memory I have as a young girl was my sitting in a doctor's office with my mother. I really knew nothing of the meaning of the words being exchanged between them, but I distinctly recall the white-haired doctor telling my mother, "Lola, this isn't right. Someone is hurting your little girl and you've got to take care of it." I can remember the look on my mother's face being one of sadness. Not shock, not concern, not anger, nor even fear. Just sadness. I was confused. I knew she had taken me in because I had come to her with blood on my panties, crying that I was hurting. And she took me in to see Dr. Giddens. And as we drove there, she explained to me that I was probably starting some cycle. She never asked me if I got hurt, or if I did, how I got hurt, or worse yet, who it was that hurt me. I was 5 years old, a first grader. I knew nothing of what she was talking about. I just knew I was sore, confused, and needed my mother to take care of things for me. She responded with silence. Not a word was ever spoken to me about it again. She would never question me as to who hurt me. She would never ask me if I would continue to get hurt, and she would never, ever know how much I would grow to resent her silence for years to come. It would be the same year that I would have my next childhood memory, that of my mother's father coming to my mother's defense. Now, my granddaddy was my hero. He was a little wiry man, stood about 5'3", and I was the apple of his eye, as was my mother, his only girl. My dad was a handsome man. He was a carpenter by winter and a farmer by spring, summer, and fall, with some land of his own. We had farmed hundreds of acres of tobacco and watermelon and corn and cotton and vegetable gardens. He was a son of a preacher man, an alcoholic, and carried a very heavy hand. I would learn later in life that he had beaten my mother within the first week of their marriage. But then in 1947, you made your bed and you laid in it. You didn't run back to Mommy and Daddy. You didn't have a 1-800 number to call or a shelter house to run to. And the law enforcement operated like many of the agencies do even today. They took care of the good old boys. They stuck together. The night of this second memory, my mother had been beaten to a bloody, broken pulp. We didn't have a phone yet. We were the last to get many things. 8 children in the family, poor as church mice, being conceived to work on the farm, definitely not out of love, and looked down upon in the community. One of the neighbors had heard all that was going on that night and drove into town to retrieve my granddad. He and my grandmother would come out to try and stop the bedlam, to no avail. They tried to take Mom and the 6 children born by that time back into town with them, and Dad turned on them, inflicting injury to both, and a huge chasm between the families. Mother was afraid to leave, and we would be prisoner to suffering for many years to come. My third memory would be in early 1960. I was almost 8 years old. That was the year that Madeline Murray O'Hare would file her lawsuit that would change the course of America forever. Her one voice would be heard in the Supreme Court in 1963, and I am grateful to be the age I am today, for had I been born just 3 years later, I might never have found the turning point for my life. And who knows what course my life would have taken. The Gideons had come to our school and spoken at chapel, as we called it then, assembly for others. They were giving out those tiny red Biblettes, if you will, that had the familiar verses of John 3:16, Psalm 100, and a few others. They presented the gospel of Jesus Christ to the group, and these little eager ears didn't let a single word land on unfertile soil. My little legs would race up to the front of the room and claim that Bible they offered to those who wanted a real one. That Gideon's Bible would get read underneath covers by flashlight many nights by me. For a few years, I would not grasp all its words had to offer, especially the teachings of the Old Testament. I started off with Genesis and plowed all the way through to Revelation once and twice and over and over and over again through the years. While my young mind couldn't comprehend and piece together the complexities of some of its teaching, I certainly understood, for God so loved the world, and that world was me. Now that I could apply to my life. And come unto me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The rest part registered because everyone in my family, and especially my mom and I, needed that rest. We were up at 4 in the morning to work the farm, get ready for school, go through the day, get taken out of school early to work the farm again. And in the summertime, it consisted of farming, cleaning, cooking, and helping put up vegetables, never seeing bedtime until well after midnight. Lying awake to hear my mother abused when she finally got to bed, and then being molested myself, life was just kind of difficult. It was more than exhausting. I was just dog-tired. I was depressed, and I felt trapped in a world that was completely out of control. But that Gideon's Bible would be my solace, reading until I fell asleep at night or being interrupted by an intruder after the lights went out. As I matured in knowledge, I began grasping more and more of God's promises. It would be Philippians 4:8 that would grab my heart. Whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think upon these things. Now I got that. That became the hope for this little girl's heart. I can remember the moment I adopted that verse as my sustaining promise. I was 10 by now, my next memory. It had been a real difficult Friday night, and I was exhausted. My mother was working outside the home to bring in money, and I was left to take care of the house. That Saturday morning, I had burned the breakfast and gotten a beating by my dad. I was charged to clean the house and watch the babies while everyone else had gone off to the movies or whatever they gallivanted off to do. I felt desperately alone, dreadfully forsaken, and completely desolate. I vividly recall propping the broom against the wall and cradling my head in the crook of my arm. And as I rested it on the mantel, I began to sob. And I cried out to God with great agony in my plea. And that would be a defining moment in my childhood. I promised him if he would help me survive what was happening to me, if he could just protect me in some way, if he would get me out of this mess, I would serve him forever. I didn't know how he would do it, but I knew it was within his power. I had read about it. I would scream and beg that my plea went beyond the ceiling, that my appeal didn't get trapped within the knotty pine walls of that God-forsaken home I lived in. I fell to my knees and I begged for his mercy. That day I would cry until the well ran dry. And I promised God if he would help me, I would never cry again. He knew that was an unrealistic pledge on my part, but I have managed to limit my tears over the years. I still recall the gentle nature by which his Spirit comforted me that day. I recalled the Philippians verse I had read underneath the covers by flashlight, and I claimed it that day as my driving force to get me through my long and difficult days. The rest of that day and others brought new challenges, but I would focus on the true, the noble, the pure, and the lovely. And the odd thing was, I didn't even know what any of those things were. I just knew whatever they might be had to be better than what I was accustomed to. I'd ask you to join me next week, and I'll continue to share from my memory vault. Until then, I'm in battle for his cause, and I seek your prayers. May God bless your life, your marriage, and your home.